Welcome back, everybody. Broadcasting to you live from the launch of the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital, and all the guests arriving now. And it's just you can feel the sense of pride as people walk through this door, and they just look around them and see that perhaps it was them that invested in it, or they were part of the dream, or they're part of the board. Whatever it may be, I just think everybody has a big, broad smile on their face and walking with their shoulders very, very firmly high this morning, and rightfully so. This, of course, is the launch of a dream, something 11 years ago that was dreamt up to make the lives of the children of South Africa better, easier, and not only of South Africa, but sub-Saharan Africa as well. And it's a 200-bed facility that hopefully is going to increase in time. But right now, let's just get it off the ground, and then you never know what will happen thereafter. Now, of course, the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital Trust is led by a very credible and hardworking team that's chaired by our former president's wife, that of course being Mrs Graca Machel. The team with its different responsibilities are the ones charged with making sure that this particular hospital gets completed and it starts all of its operations. So their job is almost there, because I say they've still got a lot of work to do ahead of them. One of the members of the board of trustees is Joe Seoloane. He joins us here on the program, and also Mr Mrs Graca, also one of the board members, and it's so lovely to have both of you. Welcome to Morning Live, Mas.
Thank you so much, Leanne, and this is a very emotional day for us.
It is, yeah.
It's been 11 years of hard work. Before it started, Mr. Mandela walked into my office and says, we are both retired, but we still have some work to do.
Yeah.
We have to build a children's hospital, and I want you to be involved, and I've been involved since then.
Wow. So that's how it all started for you. He walked through, and when Madiba walks through an office.
Oh,
yeah. You're happy, but you start shaking a bit. You know that the purse strings are going to be pulled.
Exactly.
Joe, what about you? I mean, did you have a similar encounter with Tata? Did he also come to you and say, Joe, listen, my friend, it's time. We got to look after the children?
Well, actually, I was just drawn in by the CEO of the National Nelson Mandela Children's Fund over coffee, and we had to have several trips, obviously, to report to Tata, even when we was in Kunu, just to be able to tell him how far the project has been. And it was just that moment of aura when you have to go and report to your principal. And at that time, we had not even been able to raise enough money. As you would recall, we had to raise half of the required money. The 1 billion had to be raised to 500 million before anything could be started. And at that time, we were just saying we have not reached the target. And yet he every time thought the hospital is already kind of built. And it was like a sobering moment. We were saying that we're still on our way. And that was just a touching moment. But now today, seeing what's happening around, obviously it becomes a troubled pleasure that we thought it was not going to be able to happen now. It's unfortunate it happens after he has already passed on, but the legacy continues, and we are really glad to have been part of that journey and honored, with all the team members that we could be entrusted with such a big responsibility.
Indeed. And I mean, raising the funds is never an easy thing. Obviously, you have the name Nelson Mandela to go with, but at the end of the day, I mean, we're not talking about a couple of 100 rands or thousands of rands. This was, we're heading into the billions, and the reality is that must have been a difficult task. You were very much so involved in the fundraising, both locally and internationally. How did that go?
It's never an easy thing to raise funds and for projects like this. But, having Madiba's name behind you helps a little bit. I had to travel internationally to campaign and convince people that this is a project that we have to do. But I'm very happy that even before we went out to go out internationally, South Africans came on board. I went around and asked people to come on board. And I was one of the first people from my company, Safika, to dedicate funds, because you can't go out and raise money unless you are yourself, as a committed person, have actually contributed to the funds.
Yeah.
And, our government as well was quite helpful, in terms of working with us, ensuring that we can, raise the necessary funds and we can operate the hospital. The University of Witwatersrand, which is a partner, this property stands here because it's a property of the University of Wits. They contributed that, and they were very involved with us in making sure that the clinicians that work for the University of Wits, the clinicians that work for the University of Pretoria, and other clinicians are really involved in actually designing and making sure that what we're talking about is something that is required and needed.
Yeah. Well, I want to reminisce a little bit with you, Joe, and I haven't actually touched on it as yet, because it was one of those moments when you look back on your life and you remember a day like it was yesterday, and I think you feel the same way. We were in the reception area of Radio Park at the SABC. It was on the 5th of December, the morning of the 5th of December, and we were having a telethon at the SABC to raise funds for this. Normal South Africans who, whether they have money or didn't, were sending SMSs, they were phoning in, they were donating. And what happened that day was the passing of Mandela. And I get cold, and all of us do get cold thinking of that. But I mean, the reality is that this is also because of normal South Africans, not just because of business.
Yeah. Correct. Very interesting is that ordinary people on that day, I still remember quite vividly in that foyer when we were calling on people to saying, make your own contribution with the SMS line. We just want to be able to say to the entire South African community that responded to that call on just that day when everything coincided in that way. That's why I had said earlier that it's a troubled pleasure. It's because you remember that day when something happened and actually it looked like it was primed, and yet we did not even know that that was going to be the day when Madiba passes on and people had given, and today it is a day of celebration. We just want to thank everyone who has made a contribution, even those who made a contribution in kind of their own sacrifices to do little things that has made this day become a reality. And it's a day to say thank you and thank you and thank you to everyone for this wonderful project.
If you look at this hospital and the role of children, one of the things that we made sure that children are very involved. The design, the decoration, even the idea, even the logo itself was designed by children. And Madiba wanted to make sure that children actually have an important role in designing their own facility. We just facilitated this. This is a children's facility, and therefore it must feel like home. It must feel like everyday place that children can go to, even when they are sick. When you walk through this hospital, you can't but realize that this is a very pleasant place, even though we're going to be treating kids who are sick.
I mean, I remember going into hospitals with my kids and desperately trying to find a television channel for them to watch that wasn't, snowy and blurry and had to do with sports or news, but to find something for them. And I believe there's an internal television channel here that is showing cartoons and kids' films, kids' movies, you name it, it's happening here. But it doesn't end here. So this is, before we get into the news bulletin, we need to talk further, because as much as we're almost there, I think 800 million has been raised, which we can see, but there's that shortfall of 200 million that people still need to be generous, right?
Yes, and this is where, I think part of the fundraising, we're calling in even kids. There is a fund that we call Kids for Kids. They're raising that kind of funds, and we are also calling on, the entire public, corporate South Africa, and everyone who really wants to put a hand to saying, yes, we have reached a milestone, but the journey still continues to make sure that all the other, remaining things that needs to be done. Right now, we are fully equipped to the hospital, but there are areas that we still need to be able to cover. We have to sustain the hospital, and therefore there's going to be an ongoing fundraising to make sure that we reach our ultimate target. And we just really want to appeal to everyone in whatever way or form to saying your contribution will still make a difference to making sure that children receive the kind of care that they deserve.
Joe Moss, thank you. Thank you very much for being with us here on the program. Enjoy today, bask in the glory, and then we'll worry about work again next week. Thank you so much. much. Thanks so much. All right, there, talking about this Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital, these are the men that are on the board of trustees. They are the guys that have been entrusted with the responsibility of getting this off the ground. We're going to take a break here on the program with the beautiful sounds of the choir in the background. And I'm also just going to read that first paragraph of the promise of the hospital. We built this place in his legacy. Madiba, our rock, our unwavering tree. And with every brick painstakingly laid, we knew exactly what we had just made. And we're standing in it.
What is a national anthem and why do we need national anthems?
The national anthem becomes an instrument to foster social cohesion, identity, to create a sense of identity of a country.
It does happen that people feel that they cannot commit to what the national anthem does.
Unity is not formed from the sky. People don't just despise the national anthem, but it is because of certain things that are actually happening. The issue of languages, for instance. The issue of apartheid statues and monuments.
I don't know if I'm going to succeed, but I want you to tell us, who are these 3 people that you have opened corruption charges against at the Brooklyn police station? How senior are they?
Very.
Are these people who are serving in the political office of the